Good evening, everyone. My name is Gracie Koo, and on behalf of Howden, I would like to welcome all of you to our Padang. If you take a look, you turn your head and take a look at the name of this place. It's known as Padang. Okay, for some of you who may not know, the word Padang is a Malay word. All right, it means the field, F-I-E-L-D. That's where you play your soccer. All right, but to those who are familiar, Padang is a very iconic venue where major sporting and community events take place, like our National Day. All right, so here we are at Padang, and thank you for taking your time away from the day to join this growing community at the Padang and joining in this conversation for tonight. All right, we all know that every business is on a journey to want to attract a huge, diverse talent, and we want to retain all of them. All right, there's no difference for Howden. Okay, we're very passionate about wanting to create a very supportive environment for our people, our staff, to make them feel comfortable for who they want to be and to be themselves. So I'm very grateful that tonight we're going to hear from our panel speakers in sharing with us what they do in order to achieve this. All right, and my personal wish for everyone in the audience tonight is to make sure that as you join in the conversation, I hope you are able to take something away with you after tonight's discussion to be able to make a change in whichever small way, all right, to be that change in order to achieve what you would like to see. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to introduce a very brilliant facilitator for tonight. She's a former TV presenter, a change maker herself, and someone who practices what she preaches. Anita Kapoor, please.
This should be working, but it isn't. But everybody can hear my voice, right? Okay, so let's see. Let's hope it works later. Thank you very much for that very, very gracious introduction. How is everybody? Fantastic. It's nice. It's nice to feel everybody kind of relaxed, and I feel very grateful and happy to be here in the room with all of you, as I'm going to get to learn a lot of things, both from my panel and from all of you in here. So the way that we're actually going to run this is after I stop speaking, I'm going to introduce Dr. Oberdan, who is going to be our speaker for today. And after that, we'll have our panel discussion. And then we have ample and enough time for all of your deep, searing questions. Please do not let anybody on the panel off the hook, especially if you know them personally. But they're here to basically discuss, the theme for this. The Dive Festival, first of all, if you are familiar with, and if you're not, I became acquainted with the Dive Festival 2 years ago, and it was through the graciousness of Ricarda and her company who were looking for a moderator. And the last 2 years, of course, were online. It was a very, very different experience. It's so wonderful to actually be able to see people and to actually connect with the energy in the room. So this year's theme, of course, is building braver cultures, and this particular conversation is going to be about building communities and not companies. So I'm just going to take you through a little bit of the why, then I'm going to introduce Dr. Oberdan, and then we'll start flowing. I think nowhere in the recent past have we experienced collectively the paradigm shift that has occurred in the last 2 years. Many wisdom keepers have noted that humans respond only through crisis. I also believe that humans respond through connection, to belonging, and of course, through equity. The crisis left a mark in very many, many ways. No matter how mentally prepared, economically stable, or emotionally or spiritually intelligent we may or may not have been, personally or professionally. I think from lockdown all the way to hybrid, which is where we are now, we have experienced what it takes to respond to blurred lines, but to also build adaptability, to build resilience, to build innovation, but most of all, and very importantly, to come face to face with separation, and a stark separation in many ways between human nature and work nature. For some of us, I think this has been a harder teaching, and for others it has caused deeper wounds, especially in lives that have been marginalized by never having been included to begin with. And for others, of course, it's been a softer landing. Let's also throw into the mix this overarching unrest, political, inflation, recession. So what does it actually all say? right? So the two biggest areas of focus that we must evaluate and take responsibility for and action in is how we care, communicate, and connect with one another and within ourselves, and our relationship with honesty and trust. So allow me to introduce Dr. Oberdan Marinetti. He began his life in the Italian military, later trained as a psychologist, talk about being an overachiever, and worked in corporates before beginning his own therapy practice. He also creates and runs holistic psychology programs for a very diverse audience, and one which I've actually participated in called Om Ice, which combines psychology work, breath, and ice immersions. He is a leader in his field of understanding how humans behave, what they truly want, and what gets in the way, and what it is to build a fresh type of holistic community, literally from scratch. Speaking on Can I Survive This? Lessons on Leadership, please welcome Dr. Oberdan Marinetti.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Anita. Can you all hear me at the back?
Yes.
Without a microphone? Great. Before we begin, I would like you to hold this question in mind. What should I do today that I know I should do, but I continue to postpone? What should I do today that I know I should do, but I continue to postpone? I'll say one more time. What should I do today that I know I should do, but I continue to postpone? I want to begin by alerting you to the fact that you already have all the answers you are looking for within yourself. It so happens that life has put some obstacles in the way, and either of two scenarios typically manifest. On one hand, you might not see your answers, you don't know where they are. As it is most often the case, however, you know exactly what you are supposed to do, but actually you don't. Or maybe you try and you cannot stick with it. Or maybe you make an end of year resolution and then somehow in February you're already back to your old patterns. Whatever the case, remember this throughout my presentation. You already have all the answers within yourself. The context of my talk is obviously the workplace, even though I will be in a moment sharing very personal stories. And I want to set the context by highlighting some data from the State of Global Workplace 2021 report, which is run by the Gallup organization and has been run for a long, long time. The data I pulled out from the 2021 report is a comparison to the data I pulled out from the exact same report in 2013 when I prepared my TED Talk, which I delivered in 2015. Now, there's some good news. Engagement in 2013 was 87% negative in the workforce globally. That means 87% of the global population felt actively disengaged from their workplace. Singapore stood at 91%. The 2021 report shows some improvements. Now it's only 80% of the global population, no longer 87, and Singapore has gone from 91 to 87% of disengagement. Now the good news with this later report, especially after, in fact during the COVID 2021, they also highlighted a set of mental health measures, which include daily worry, daily stress, daily anger, and daily sadness. The data is not looking pretty, and the worrying thing is that the trends are getting worse. In daily worry, 41% reported globally, that is, reported feeling being affected by it. 32% was in 2013, 9% jump. Daily stress jumped from 37% to 43%, anger from 18% to 24%, and sadness from 18% to 25%. So while engagement has somewhat improved, mental health and the impact on our well-being has decreased, has gotten worse. And now more than ever, as leaders, we have a role to marry our commercial duties for profits, shareholder returns, and whatever other your metrics might be, with the human elements of doing business. And one way I like to depict the impact leaders have in their business to people I work with in my clinic or my executive coaching practice is that leaders literally make the weather. And for some people, if today is cloudy, I'm going to be miserable. If today is sunny, I'm going to be bouncing off the walls with joy. So our role is critical in creating the environment and the community that we now know from plenty of data over the last 10 years plus, whereby engaged workforce deliver higher productivity, deliver better returns. So there is no excuse anymore not to focus on this. I want to share a few personal stories to highlight how I have had some adversities and what I have done to overcome, what lessons I gleaned from those adversities, and how I applied them to my work and my communities today. And so to set the scene, we traveled back to February 2018. It's Saturday night. I am attending a party at One Altitude. No longer exists. It's a bar that used to be at a top floor of UOB Plaza, 63rd floor. Now, in order to keep the beautiful Singapore view open, the barrier that separates guests from the abyss is glass. I'm standing by the glass and I'm looking down. I'm looking down and then I look around and I think, ooh, there's nobody here. I'm quite agile, I'm quite strong. It might take me about 3 to 5 seconds to cross the barrier and jump. Nobody will have enough time to even see, and if they see, they won't have enough time to catch me. I'm far too fast. Now, obviously, I didn't jump because I'm right here, but I want to tell you what happens from that moment of the story where I was at the very bottom of my pit to what happens today, several years later. And the 3 things that kept me alive that I want to highlight today, there's many more, but the 3 that I think are useful for today's conversation. 1 is the realization that I have a relentless commitment to serve. 2, that I have an insatiable curiosity. And 3, the extreme cold has helped me stay alive and thrive. I want you to imagine a peach tree. This peach tree was lucky enough to be born in the best spot in the orchard. Perfect lighting, good amount of water, the perfect location to eventually create the most beautiful and sweetest peaches the tree could possibly deliver. And so the peach tree happily goes on with life, delivering its peaches, but suddenly it realizes that actually to be successful in life, you have to give pears. And so the peach tree then thinks, hold on a second, I'm giving these amazing peaches, but I'm not succeeding like my pear friends. And so it comes up with a strategy. From today, I'm gonna wake up early every morning, I'm gonna pick up all the cherries, forgive me, the peaches. I'm gonna go to the fruit market, give the peaches away, get the pears, go to the orchard, put them on the branches, and I'm gonna sell pears. And thereafter, it becomes the most successful pear tree in the orchard. And nearing the end of its productive life, it suddenly stops and thinks, I don't understand why, but I've done everything they told me by the textbook. I delivered above and beyond what was asked of me. I've succeeded beyond my imagination. How come I feel so empty? How come I feel so broken? How come life doesn't seem to be so meaningful? Until, speaking with the wise peach tree of the orchard, he remembers, I used to be a peach tree. And so the first story of relentless commitment to serve is that after that moment at UOB Plaza, having dived deep within myself to reconnect to what I today call my essence, I rediscovered that to pick myself up, I had to serve. And so I dove deep into my clinical practice, which was brand new at the time, and I started relentlessly pursuing excellence in what I was doing as a clinician. The second short story I want to tell you is one you are all familiar with, because I'm sure you've all taken an airplane at some point or another. And there is that point of the safety briefing where they say, when the oxygen mask comes down, what do they say? You put them on you first. Now, why would they say that? It's obvious, because if I'm struggling to breathe, suffocating for lack of oxygen, I cannot look after my daughter, I cannot look after my friends, I cannot look after the fellow passengers who need my help. And yet, every single day in our lives, we deplete ourselves to the level that we have nothing left to give, because we've been attending so much to our boss's demands, our partner's demands, our kids' demands, the financial crisis, the stock market, the whatever, that suddenly we realize I'm running on empty. And so the second realization for me is that to be curious about what does it mean to put the oxygen mask for me first was an absolute core ingredient in picking myself up from the bottom and coming back to rediscovering who I was and how I could be of service so that I could fulfill my first point. And in particular, what I realized is that I was out of balance. I like to describe a healthy person as a healthy, balanced adult. And this is someone who is able to operate from their core and be of the greatest possible impact, no matter what their field of occupation is. Parenting, working, creating a business, creating art, whatever. An healthy, balanced adult is defined as the person who has invested enough time, energy, and effort to build their physical body, their emotional body, their intellectual body, and their spiritual body. Most of us have grown up in societies that have made this incredibly powerful. When we have meetings in corporates, we focus on numbers and facts and logic and reasons and solutions. We prefer and reward intellect. Being physically healthy is the next thing we promote in this modern society, especially Instagram, big biceps, six packs, and all that stuff. But the truth is, there are other parts of us we've completely neglected that keep us out of balance, where we become unskillful in our pursuits. And so finding that balance was key for me. The third short story, I am a qualified Wim Hof method instructor. And as part of my training, I had to climb Mount Śnieżka, which is in Poland, in winter. In the time I was there, it was -8 degrees, wearing only my boots and my shorts and naked in the rest. Now, it's a week-long training. This is the last test you do at the end of the week. And I had arrived at the week already with a cold. By the end of the week, I now have a full-blown chest infection. I'm not going to give you the details because they're quite disgusting, but you can imagine them for yourselves. I reach out to the trainer that was looking after my cohort in the morning of the climb, and I say, I'm sick. I don't think I can do this. I think I'm going to get pneumonia. He looks at me and he goes, nah, I've seen you train during the week. You'll do it. And I was like, what does he know that I don't know? He seems to be so confident in my ability, and yet here I am feeling unable to even breathe, and he wants me to go up a mountain for 3 hours in -8 degrees naked. This is crazy. So we then get grouped together, 80 people. Wim is giving the safety briefing, and as he finished the briefing, he says to one of the other instructors, does anyone here want to add something to what I just said? And the newest instructor comes to the front and says, guys, I was sitting where you are right here 1 year ago. The one thing that made me do this was to dedicate my walk to someone. And as he said that, the image of my daughter popped into my head. Thereafter, I was convinced I was going to go up the mountain, no matter what. And I finished the climb, and as you can see, I'm still alive and nothing has happened. And the lesson here is, I realized that the cold is an analogy for life. And take temperature as an example. Singapore is a very hot and humid country. We don't suffer that heat and humidity very well, so what do? We create air-conned environments so that our tolerance level is kept between 18 to 22, 23, 24 degrees, where I'm comfortable. If I go to a winter country in the middle of winter and it's super cold, I don't want to be outside in -25. I want a thick coat, a warmer or something, but if I'm inside, I want heating. Once again, I'm keeping my tolerance level between the 16 to 24. The truth, however, is our bodies, our mind, our souls are built for a much wider tolerance level. And what I realized in the moment I wanted to jump, my tolerance had narrowed so much that the stressors I was dealing with for the things that I was handling was actually not utilizing my full capacity. And so these three stories, hopefully to illustrate that the answers are indeed within us, that indeed we do have the power if we choose to believe that we are capable of achieving them. You see, when I was at one altitude, I was coming from a 12 months of hell. I had just lost my family to a very deceitful divorce that saw them disappearing from home when I was traveling to come back to an empty house. My dad had gone in hospital for routine operations, and 8 months later, 6 operations later, died. And I had just started a business, investing what I had in terms of liquidity, and I was struggling to make things happen. I was at the bottom of the pit, and I thought I wouldn't be able to come out from it. But then again, I'm here. And suddenly I realized that there are so many people in the world suffering with similar and sometimes even worse situations than mine, who don't have access to the knowledge I have as a trained psychologist, the practices I have as an ex-military in a special forces unit, as a Wim Hof method instructor who practices cold exposures on a daily basis, etc., etc., etc. And therefore I decided to create the program that Anita has already referenced. It's called On Ice, where I have packaged my learning to help people break through their limiting beliefs so they can access those answers they have inside. And that is my way today to create my community and serve my community when it comes to clients. The second community I'm building is me, because I realize that when I am an HBA, a healthy, balanced adult, I'm the most impactful ever. And as I continue to evolve, I continue to have new things to offer that can help others. And so the second community I'm working hard to develop is me in my physical body, my emotional body, my intellectual body, and my spiritual body. And the final community I'm serving every day is my employees, whereby by acting out the things I preach, by embodying every single minute as much as I can, and I fail all the times, what I stand for, I create a group of people who resonate with what I stand for, who resonate with the vision I'm trying to build, and who decide to follow me. And so in conclusion, when we think about our role as leaders, what is a leader? A leader is someone who creates followership. Otherwise, we're just managers. We're executing somebody else's plans and visions. And so my hope for you from today onwards is, number one, that you have the courage to break through your own limiting beliefs, those beliefs that are stopping you from doing the things I know I should do, but I continue to postpone. Number two, that from today, you start speaking your voice, you start speaking your mission. However ridiculous it might sound, it's your voice. You are the peach tree. You have amazing peach trees to deliver. Deliver them to the world because there's someone out there that wants them. And three, that you address from now the smallest things you've been putting off, procrastinating on, postponing. Start small. See the quick win and see them compound day after day after day, to the point that you can go from being suicidal and being 5 seconds from throwing yourself from the 63rd floor to now doing something that resonates with your essence. And so we lead by creating a following. We create a following by speaking our message, and our message comes from our essence. It all begins with you. Start today. Thank you.